WGPR Detroit HD2.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
FM 88.1 WHPR, Highland Park.
WVIE 107.3 FM Charlotte, Amalia, Virgin Islands.
The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of WHPS, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
Brothers and sisters, are you tired of reading the Holy Scripture and not really understanding what you read? And if you're reasonably sure, have you ever tested that what you feel you know with someone that has a different view than your own? Then let's talk with one another. Then let's reason with one another on a scriptural discussion with the Son of Man every Wednesday at 9 p.m., Friday at 9 p.m., and Sunday at 12 noon on WHPR TV Detroit Live, 88.1 FM WHPR, and Comcast Cable. Why don't you call and discuss the Holy Bible, and if you have one, the Holy Quran, and come to an agreement about the Holy Scriptures and their true meaning? You can call in live on the air at area code 313-868-4336, 313-868-0342, or 313-868-0351. That's 313-868-4336, 313-868-0342, or 313-868-0351. And now, let's go live with a scriptural discussion with the Son of Man.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, the Truthful, and the Most Just. I greet all of you once again who are hungry and thirsty for the truth that guides to righteousness. I greet you all with the greeting words of peace. May Allah's Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, we want to introduce to you a guest that we have today who's handling an appeal case for Mr. Mario Willis, and we are going to welcome Attorney Craig Daley into our forum today, and I think next week we will have he and his client, a brother who was wrongly convicted of a crime, like so many of our people have been sent to prisons and jails in this country, just to find out later that they shouldn't have been there. Attorney Daley, his career as a criminal defense attorney began with an internship with the Honorable Justin Rabbit. He was a researcher with the State Appellate Defenders, Office as a DO in Detroit before becoming a staff attorney at the Defender's Office. After 2.5 years, he struck out on his own as a solo practitioner primarily in Detroit Recorder's Court with a group of truly great lawyers, now the old guard. Shortly thereafter, in his own words, shortly thereafter I joined the federal bar in 1979 and now practice over there exclusively, representing defendants in the District Court, Sixth Circuit, and U.S. Supreme Court. Over the years, I have been involved in and tried RICO conspiracy, death penalty eligible, bank fraud, and large drug and gun cases. Attorney Daley has been Mario's appellate attorney since November of 2013. He came highly recommended and has been extremely supportive and committed to Brother Mario's case. So we want to welcome him and to bring us up to speed on whatever he feels can be made public, and maybe entertain a few questions. And just in case someone else needs his help, you can set that in motion also. Attorney Daley, if you are on the line, you may press 5 * if you are in the 601 conference room, or *6 in the 712, or if you're at the station, they know what to do. They can, either way, we welcome you, brother. And if he hasn't made it yet, then you all make sure you inform me in whatever we are discussing, and we will immediately stop and recognize him and his presence among us. Brother Derek, do you have any information that needs to be passed on from him to us? Or Attorney Daley, are you there? Beg your pardon? Okay. Attorney Daley, you're unmuted now. Brother Derek?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Mrs. Willis, she's here. She's contacting Attorney Daley just to see if he's having any difficulty, but everything should be set.
Okay. Beg your pardon?
I'm sorry, can you hear me now? This is Craig Daley.
Yes, sir. How you doing, Attorney Daley?
I am doing fine. Thank you very much for that introduction and your invitation to be on your program.
Well, we thank you for all of the good that you have been doing for our brother. And I'm going to turn the microphone over to you for now, and you can tell us whatever you can make, public to us.
Absolutely. So I think for your audience, it's important that we start with the man being Mario Willis. And for your audience, you should know that Mario is an extraordinary person. And in terms of both his heart and his mind. So in terms of background, Mario was born and raised in Detroit by two loving, supportive parents, Maxine and Marvin. And through this extraordinary and devastating ordeal, they have been completely supportive. So after Mario graduated from high school in the city of Detroit, he enrolled in Eastern Michigan University on a football scholarship. And then after that, he enrolled in Davenport University and was on the dean's list. And Mario, he majored in business and marketing. And, of course, after doing that, he became his own businessman. And so he had a number of businesses that he started, including a hair salon and a landscaping business. And then eventually he got involved in rentals in the city of Detroit. So he purchased a number of rentals, including a property on East Kirby in the city of Detroit, that ultimately became the subject of the charges in this case. So in the meantime, he married his high school sweetheart, Megan. And his only brush with the law prior to the case for which he is now serving time for was a traffic infraction. So Mario has been in prison almost 12 years now. He recently turned 40 years old. We have put together an extensive document to submit to the Integrity Unit, which is part of the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. And in that document, we have set forth all of the reasons post-conviction why Mario should be granted a new trial. And with a number of exhibits, we've done extensive review of his case. We've hired our own experts, and we've submitted this to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office back in the end of April of this year. They are currently reviewing it, and it's our hope and our prayer that they will look at this and they will come to the conclusion that we are correct and that Mario did not receive a fair trial, that a lot of things happened during the trial, a lot of serious mistakes were made that we have uncovered, and that Mario, who has always asserted his innocence, will get a new trial, and that if we get this new trial, that ultimately we will prevail.
Yes, sir. Well, whatever we can do, Attorney Daley, that will help you, you feel free to just let the Willises know or give us a call personally, and we will do all we can to help you to help Brother Mario. And also, anytime that you want to just come on and just share with us anything that you feel is okay to do so from your end. I know that certain things that attorneys will keep under wraps because it's just a private affair. But we welcome you in this forum anytime. And those who may need an attorney, you have an attorney on the line here now that you might want to give out your information where people can reach you. And if you don't mind, maybe some of the people have questions that you can answer for them while you're so, I'm not, when I have a guest, I prefer my guest to do the talking. So,
that is great. Thank you. it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity for Mario for the first time in, 12 years, that he has had a chance to really present his case. And Mario recently just turned 40, and he's been in prison, like I said, for a very long time. And we are absolutely confident that when the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office looks at this case, based on the evidence that we have now that wasn't presented, that he should get a new trial, and that if he gets that new trial, he'll be vindicated.
Very good. Very good. It's nice to have you saying that because you know what you're talking about. And,
I should, as his lawyer, right?
Sir, yes, sir. Sometimes non-lawyers, it'd be wishful thinking. But
this is not wishful.
Right.
Mario and I have worked together from day one, and Mario knows the facts of this case better than anyone. So I am the legal expert. He's the factual expert. And together we have put together a really convincing product for the Integrity Unit. So the Integrity Unit is a special unit in the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. And thankfully, after all these years, we've had, a number of people who are innocent convicted. And for the most part, historically, what the prosecutor's office would do is they would say, well, we got a conviction, and that's enough. We really don't care if the person was innocent or not. So that has changed, and the origin of that really was the DNA stuff that came out and the innocence projects across the country that said we need to look at these cases more carefully. And as that happened, they discovered more and more evidence that innocent people who actually were convicted had a right to come back to court. And so we're thankful. We're very thankful for the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office to establish an integrity unit. And this unit is made up of lawyers who are sensitive to these issues. Some of them, if not many of them, have been defense lawyers. And when they look into these cases, they are very careful to look at the evidence that we present about newly discovered evidence, suppressed evidence, evidence that shouldn't have been admitted, that entitle a defendant like Mario to a new trial. So Mario's case in itself was a travesty. It was an absolute travesty of what happened, and it involved significant mistakes by the prosecutor, by the police department, and their investigators who either made knowingly false statements or made statements that they should have known were false that led to his conviction. And we're trying to fix this and correct this now.
Well, I'm definitely, whatever you need from us, you ain't got to beg. All you have to do is just ask, and we will.
Well, we're looking for any absolute support that we can get, and I'm not clear on exactly how much time I have, but I would be more than willing to lay out for your audience the evidence that we have found that should have been presented and would entitle Mario to a new trial.
Well, you have as much time as you want to take. Eh?
Well, that's great. No. That is very kind of you. So what we've done, Mario and I, along with his parents, and his parents have been just wonderful, just absolutely supportive. And sometimes inmates who are in prison have absolutely no support. They're just on their own. And Mario is special in the sense that both his parents have been extremely supportive of us in getting him a new trial. And that's an asset that you just can't buy out there. You can't buy out. So that has been very helpful. So we have basically 5 essential categories that we believe entitle Mario to a new trial. So in terms of those categories, the first involves civilian witnesses. And what we have been able to do is to get affidavits from civilian witnesses that are crucial to Mario's case. And the first is from the prosecution's key witness, a person by the name of Darian Dove. And Darian Dove was a co-defendant who cut a deal with the prosecutors for a reduced sentence and testified against Mario. So Darian Dove was a convicted felon who had a long history of drug use and alcohol use. And the prosecutors decided that they were going to use him to convict Mario. So just by way of background, what this case involves, just real quickly, is factually, and if you want to interrupt me at any time, just let me know. This was a fire in November 15th of 2008 at about 5 a.m. on a street called East Kirby in Detroit. So some of your listeners may know about that. So the fire started and the Detroit Police Department came out. They had the fire under control. So this particular property was vacant at the time. And they started to put the fire out, and they sent firefighters into the property to put out hot spots. And when they did that, one of the firefighters, a person by the name of Mr. Harris, went inside, and the roof collapsed on him. So when that happened, he was rendered unconscious. They took him to the hospital, and he was essentially dead on arrival. So the Wayne County Medical Examiner said that he died of mechanical asphyxiation and ruled that the death was a homicide. So that was back in 2008. By the time we get to trial in 2010 in the city of Detroit, Mario gets convicted of second-degree murder and arson.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
How did, as he went there to put out a fire, how did it become a murder?
Well, in the state of Michigan, we have a rule called felony murder, so that if a felony, in this case an arson, results in the death of a person, that can be a felony murder, which is first-degree murder. So to answer your question, which is very insightful, what happened is after this case, the Detroit Police Department changed their policy, and they said, we're not going to send in people, our people, into a fire to put it out in an uninhabited residence unless the chief of police is present. So what they did is they sent in Mr. Harris, and the fire essentially had been put out. They were still pouring water on the top of the building. The roof collapses. Mr. Harris is then trapped inside. And then, as I said, by the time he gets to the hospital, he's dead. So what happened is, Mario had a jury trial, and he was convicted, and he has been resentenced, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times, because the judges felt obligated to try to punish him extremely. And the appellate court said, look, this is so outrageous, so out-justified, so unreasonable that they kept saying, you've got to resentence him. So currently, he's under sentence of 30 to 55 years for a second-degree murder and 10 to 20 years on the arson. So as I said, Mario has spent like 12 years now, almost 12 years in prison, and he's about to turn 40. So that's just a quick summary of what the case is about. So it's our position that we believe has all the merit, factually and legally, that the judge, prosecutor, the defense lawyer all made serious mistakes that had they taken care of business, that Mario would have never been convicted.
Well, even what you just said, I mean, they sent that man back in the building while they were still dumping water on an already weak roof. And so,
exactly.
I mean, I'm not going to, but I certainly am glad that you are on the case. And again, whatever we can do, we'll be there for you.
Okay, so I understand that one of the things that you're doing is that you are either broadcasting a website for Mario as we speak. Is that correct?
This is going all out on the internet.
Perfect. So if we have a moment, can I speak about the reasons why Mario should get a new trial?
We have more than a moment. You go ahead, take all the
Great.
need.
Thank you. So there's essentially 5 categories. And the main character, and I call him a character to the extent that he gave such conflicting testimony and evidence, was a person by the name of Darian Dove. So Darian Dove was a person who worked on behalf of Mario to keep some of these properties together. You know, as I said, Mario had a number of different properties that he had rented, and so he had to keep them up. And Darian Dove was one of these people. And Darian Dove ended up being the main prosecution witness against Mario. And Darian Dove had a long history. He was a convicted felon. He had been convicted of false statements, of stealing property, being in possession of stolen property, and had a history of drug use, had a history of drinking. But the prosecutors and the police department found him as what I would consider to be a pliable witness. And eventually he testified at trial that Mario had picked him up at his house and brought him over to a gas station where they got gas. And that Mario drove to a corner street and told Darian Dove to go to the house on East Kirby and set a small or slight burn. That was what he testified to at trial, and that he would get paid $20 for that. That's what he told the jury. Well, now we have a sworn statement under oath from Darian Dove saying that he lied under oath about Mario. And everything that he said that implicated Mario in the fire itself was not true, and that he felt pressured by the police department to say that and to save himself. So in Michigan, we do not have the death penalty, thank God. What we have is if somebody's convicted of first-degree murder, which is what this case was about, of felony murder, you can spend the rest of your life in prison. So now Darian has seen the light. He has said this was not true. And so you need to understand that when the police started this investigation, they started not with Darian Dove, not at all, but they started with Mario. Because Mario and his fiancée at the time, Megan, that he married, his high school sweetheart, that they were the owners of the property. And it was Mario who told the police and the investigators about Darian Dove. So if Mario had asked Darian Dove to set a fire, you think for one moment he would have told the police that Darian Dove was involved?
No way.
No way. There's no way. Why would he do something like that? So that is something totally consistent with his innocence, right?
Yes, sir.
So Mario tells the investigators that he was with Megan, his fiancée at the time, and he had a alibi defense. And in that defense, he told the investigators more than once, and Megan the same thing, told them that he could not have committed this crime because they were together and they were out on a date night. They went out to a movie and they had dinner and then they went to bed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now the police are focused in on, guess who?
Mr. Dove.
Mr. Dove, exactly. And so they pick him up and they start investigating him now in June of 2009. So the fire, as you may recall, was in November 15th of 2008. They're still doing the investigation. And they pick up Mr. Dove and they interrogate him for 5 hours. 5 hours. And during that 5-hour interrogation, Mr. Dove initially says, I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about it. Eventually, he gets to the truth. And the truth being that he had been there and he was fixing up the property. And remember, this is in November.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought over a female by the name of Felicia, and they were in the house on East Kirby, and they started a fire, and they started the fire to keep them warm, and the concoction of the fire involved certain accelerants, not gasoline, but a concoction of a number of different items, detergent, ammonia, and things of that sort. So he tells the police all about that, but they don't like that. They don't like it at all. So what they do is they start pressuring him, and they say things like, we know that you got shortchanged, you weren't getting paid enough money, and people on the top make a lot of money, and things like that, and Mario's a bad person, you should stay away from him, he has a CCW permit, blah, 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 blah. So after they investigate that, and they get that statement, so Darian Dove, at the time that the police have him, is on probation. And he clearly has violated his probation, according to the police, but they let him go. They let him out. So what they do next is they charge only Darian Dove. And they charge him with first-degree murder. So they're using a lot of leverage on him, a huge amount of leverage, right? Because he's facing the rest of his life in prison. They say, look, if you tell us at trial that Mario is the person who did this for insurance purposes, we'll give you a deal. So they cut him a deal. And that's how Darian Dove becomes the main witness. And so now, after all of this has happened, he has now admitted that his original statement to the investigators about that this was an accident and that he was there with Felicia and accidentally knocked the concoction that he was using to start the fire is how it happened. So that's really important that we now have Darian Dove, the key witness, telling the truth about what happened in this case. But there's more. There's more than that. We wouldn't rely on just a recanting witness who testified for the prosecution.
Yes, sir.
His girlfriend, a woman by the name of Valerie Williams, lived with Darian Dove at the time. And she has also now signed a sworn affidavit that Mario did not come up and pick him up. Did not come and pick up Darian, drive him over to the Kirby address for this arson. And that's really, really important because the police knew about her. They actually went out to the address, and she was present in an interview that they had, that they recorded with Darian Dove. So this is partially a case where the police get where they want. The trial. And both Mario and Megan told the investigators early on in the investigation that they were together, as I said, and they were out on a date together. They went out to dinner, and after that, they went to bed. And I think at one point, Mario went out to get some cigarettes for her. Mm-hmm. So that was an important part of the defense. But after Megan and Mario testified to this at trial, the officer in charge got on the stand and said, "This is the first time I've ever heard of that. I mean, I've gone through the records. There's no evidence that they've never said that before." And that was not true. That was absolutely false. And so that really misled the jury, and the prosecutor picked up on it and said, look it, they came up with this at the last minute. That was not true. They had told them way back when the investigation first started in 2008 and again in 2009 about the alibi defense. Mm-hmm. And so then the prosecutor gets up and tells the jury that this was something recently made up, and that was misleading to the extent that under Michigan law, you don't have to file a notice of an alibi until 10 days before trial, which is what they did. So they penalized them for following the law, which you can't do. And that was very devastating, and it wasn't true. So this is what happened in our investigation afterwards. The prosecutor's office turned over discovery during the trial. And in that discovery packet, they identified certain interviews with Mario. What they identified was an interview with Officer Shea, who was the officer in charge, the one who testified at trial. But they left out a very important interview with Lieutenant Sims. Lieutenant Sims at the police department for years. He was a polygraph examiner, and they used him often to get defendants. Not once, Mario, not once, twice. All the way back in 2009. So the trial didn't happen in 2010. In 2009, more than once, about the alibi defense. What happened is that interview with Mario that was recorded was concealed, was suppressed by the prosecutors and the police department in a CD. And it wasn't until Mario's father, Marvin, went through the entire discovery that he found this concealed, never identified. So that what Officer Shea and the prosecutor misled the jury about was not true. So we have, and that's really important. So prosecutors are obligated to turn over to the defense all exculpatory evidence. And they didn't do that in this case. So that was an important part, too, that we have now unrevealed. So one of the things that you spoke about was about the firefighter, Mr. Harris, going in after the fire was essentially under control in an uninhabited building. So one of the things that we did is we, in services of a highly respected medical examiner from Oakland County. So for your listeners who are familiar with Oakland County is one of the larger counties in the state of Michigan. And this particular individual was the head medical examiner. And we sent the reports. So the medical examiner said that this was a homicide. It was a homicide. So we had our own expert who now we have available, said, wait a minute, that's not true. That's not true at all. This was not a homicide. This was an accident. And what he did is he looked at the medical records from the hospital, and in the medical records, he found that Mr. Harris, as you remember, the roof fell down on him. They found no injuries, no bruises or cuts, and that the attending physician determined that he died from cardiopulmonary arrest. So he had a pre-existing heart problem. And he, the doctor that the medical examiner that we had review all of the documents, said that this death was not a homicide but an accident because he had a pre-existing cause of death. So under Michigan law, if there is an intervening and superseding cause to the death, that's a defense. That's just one of our defenses. It's not our primary defense, but I think it's important, especially in light of what you asked about the question, what were they doing running in there when the fire was under control and the roof collapsed on him?
I mean, it's, the more you speak, the more you try to figure out, just lying. People.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. You expect, don't you, that when somebody takes an oath to tell the truth, that's what they're going to do on the witness stand, right?
Yes, sir.
Is that what you expect people to do?
That's what you're supposed to do. I remember, I've read George Washington's farewell address, and he spoke on that. If you don't have morals in religion, oaths don't mean nothing.
Exactly. The whole system collapses.
Yes, sir.
When people say, I'm telling the truth, but then they turn around and lie. So, in addition to what I've just told you, we engaged a fire investigation expert. So in any fire, right, the police department has to go out and investigate. And in this case, they sent out one of their investigators from the fire department, from the Detroit Police Department, and he took samples inside of the house of East Kirby. And he took samples in two sections. One was the floor section, and one was the wall section. And that became really critical because at trial, to believe that gasoline that was on the spread on inside the house was on the wall, which was significant in his determination that this was an intentional fire. But what he absolutely got wrong, and we have corrected, is that gasoline that was found in the house as an accelerant was only on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And we have an expert that says that the gasoline that was found on the specimens in the house on the floor was consistent with an accident, which is what Delve originally said it was, and not an intentional setting. So why he said that there was evidence of an accelerant along the walls and on the walls was not true. Your guess is as good as mine about why people get on the stand and they either don't pay attention to their own reports or they intentionally shade evidence for a conviction. And, I can tell you this, I've tried hundreds of cases in state court and federal court, and we see this time and time again. So the prosecutor's office has an obligation to seek a conviction. We don't have a problem with that, but they have to treat defendants fairly, right?
That's right.
And so that when their own witnesses get on the stand and say something that is not correct, they need to correct that. They need to stand up and say, well, wait a minute, you just said ABCD, and that's not true. Why don't you tell us exactly what happened based on your reports? And so if we were to give the investigators some leeway and just say, well, they've got a lot of cases and they can make mistakes, that's possible. But those mistakes, those significant mistakes, can often lead to convictions like in Mario's case.
Just a moment, while you was speaking, some people were texting me to ask you something, and I want to say this to those of you who texted me. The attorney is on the line. Unmute your phone and ask him your question.
Absolutely, I'd be glad to answer them.
That's what he came here for, to answer our question.
Absolutely.
So, whatever you want to ask him, ask him. You got time. I'm not rushing him. I'm not going to rush him out of here. So ask the question. Brother Derek, you have some questions for the attorney? Any of you all? I mean, you're texting me. Some of you all are texting me. No. Ask the attorney yourself, because I'm trying to listen. I'm not a person who, if I'm quiet, I'm just waiting on my turn to speak. I'm quiet listening to what he has to say. And I can't read your text and listen to him too. I ain't that good at that.
So if those text messages come in and you repeat them to me, I'll answer them, okay?
Let's see here. When the timing is right, okay, well, unmute them.
Good afternoon, Attorney Daley.
Good afternoon.
Okay, thank you all for taking my call. What happened is we were listening on television, and when you were giving the top 3 reasons or 4 reasons why Mario deserved a retrial or another trial,
yes.
After you gave the first reason of Darian Dove's sworn testimony, when you were completing reason number 2 about the live-in girlfriend giving a sworn testimony, the audio started to mess up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It was technical difficulty, which the TV station straightened out, and we didn't hear. So we didn't hear the end of that, which is basically that the live-in girlfriend had that part. And then when you were explaining the third part about the officer, we missed that. So if you could just repeat those, even succinctly repeat that, so we'll know the top 3 reasons. And then it was also mentioned from a family member who had firsthand knowledge that the house wasn't even insured. So why would someone start a blaze to a house that's not even insured? So I wanted to ask you, is that true? So those 3 things, if you could just briefly go over the 2 and 3 reasons why he deserved a retrial and whether or not that house was insured. Thank you, sir.
So, thank you. Extremely important.
So with regards to Valerie Williams, the significance of her affidavit, Darian Dove testified at the trial that Mario came to his house, picked him up, took him over to a gas station, filled a tank of gas, and he gave conflicting amounts about the amount of gas. It was either $1 or $1.50, and one time he said it was $27. But in any event, he claimed that Mario took him to the corner nearby East Kirby, dropped him off, and that he went inside, set the house on fire, came back, and then they went over and stood by and watched the fire. So Valerie Williams, who lived with him, and said, that's absolutely not true. Mario Willis never came to his house on the night of the fire, never picked him up, never dropped him off. And what supports that is not only that evidence, but the 911 tape, and this is important too. The 911 tape is of, guess who? Mr. Dove. Mr. Dove calls in after the fire. Strangely, he says there's a fire at a certain address on Kirby, and it's in the garage. But he says at that time that he is with he doesn't say this, but you can hear it in the background, a female that is with him. That female is speaking on the 911 tape. The significance of that is when he first saw and spoke to the investigators, he said, this was an accident. I was with Felicia. What I was doing was I was there and I was having another affair with Felicia, not with my girlfriend, Miss Williams, and I didn't want Miss Williams to know about it, so I didn't say anything to her, but that's what really happened. And the fire got out of control. I tried to put it out. So the 911 tape confirms his honest statement that Mario didn't know anything about this, and it was an accident. So that's the significance of Valerie Williams. With regards to the police officer, the officer in charge was an officer by the name of Officer Shea. He was the key investigator. And he investigated and interviewed a number of people, including Mario and Megan. And during those interviews, Megan specifically told him that there was an alibi defense and that they were together the night of the fire. It couldn't have happened. And on the same day that Officer Shea interviews Mario Willis, Lieutenant Sims interviewed him first. And in those interviews, Lieutenant Sims acknowledges that Mario, all the way back on June 9th of 2019, so the trial was in 2010, says, look it, I remember you telling me in a previous interview that you had an alibi, that you were with Megan. You were out on date night. And he reaffirms all that. So all of that information, that collective information, was known to the police department, but didn't stop Shea from getting on the stand when he said, I've reviewed the entire file, and there's no evidence of this. And essentially, this is the first time that I've heard of the alibi. That kind of stuff is extremely devastating to a defense, because it creates the impression that's not true whatsoever, that the defense was made up at the last second, and the prosecutor jumps on that and runs with it. So that's the other part you missed. So on the insurance issue, and this is critical too, so this gets a little complicated in the terms of what type of insurance can you have on a piece of property when you have a mortgage. There are two sides to insurance on mortgage property. There's the homeowner's part and there's the mortgage company's part.
Mm-hmm.
So the homeowner's insurance covers their interests. The mortgage part covers the mortgage company's interests. What happened was the insurance, the homeowner's insurance, which would entitle reimbursement to the owners, had lapsed, was non-existent. So what the mortgage company does is that they then, what they call a forced policy on the property. They say, look it, you were supposed to insure the property for both yourself and us, and you haven't done that, but we don't want something to happen to this property. So we are going to force insurance onto the property to protect our interest, right? Mm-hmm. So the prosecutor's theory, right from the beginning, they told the jury that this was an insurance arson, that it was for the purposes of getting money for the property. That's not true. That's not what happened. So what happened is once the fire happened, the insurance company, the mortgage company was protected to their part of the mortgage. Mm-hmm. That part of the mortgage, the outstanding balance, was less than the value of the property. So in the end, what happened is that the property was destroyed. Megan, who was the current owner, because she had been working with Mario on this, didn't receive a penny from the insurance company. The mortgage company received their outstanding debt, mm-hmm. and she ended up with a significant loss because there was still a balance that was owed on the mortgage by Megan that was never discharged. So it was a complete loss, an absolute complete loss. There was no way that Mario or Megan could have made out with this. So that has to do with the critical part of any criminal case, which is motive. The prosecutor claimed that the motive was insurance proceeds on the property. There were no insurance proceeds to be gained or gotten from either Megan or Mario. So I hope that answers your questions.
Yes.
WGPR Detroit HD2.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
FM 88.1 WHPR, Highland Park.
WVIE 107.3 FM Charlotte, Amalia, Virgin Islands.
The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of WHPS, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.